Hello and welcome to day 8 of our 30 days of devotion with Pastor Alex. I want to believe you are being blessed so far. And if that's the case, I want you to like, comment, and most especially share with someone around you. Let someone be blessed. Be the reason why someone's devotional life will be empowered. We're back to our series on prayer, and I know it's been a blessing so far. Now, many times most Christians do not experience much results in their prayer life. And I think one of the reasons is that most people are stereotypical of how they think God should answer their prayers. Yes, some people pray, but then they have their own prescribed method to which they think that that's how their prayers are going to be answered. A typical person prays and then they are not so much expectant, number one, that their prayer is going to be answered. Much more, they also do not realize that God has a myriad of ways that He can use to answer their prayers. I'm going to share a story with you. This is a story of a man called Naaman, who was an army general in the Syrian army. And he was leprous. And Naaman was seeking or looking for a solution to his leprosy. So one day, a maid in his house told him about the prophet Elisha and said, if you go and see this prophet, I believe he can help you. I believe your encounter with the prophet will result in your healing. And so lo and behold, Naaman went to see the prophet Elisha. And when he went to see the prophet Elisha, the prophet sent a messenger to him and said that for your leprosy to be healed or to be cleansed, you have to go and bathe yourself in the Jordan River 7 times. Naaman was not happy when he heard the prescription that the prophet was giving to him. And then this is what he said. He said, well, I thought that the prophet is going to come out, stand before me and call upon the name of his God and strike his hand over the leprosy so that the leprosy will go. Why is he telling me to go and dip myself in the river 7 times? Are there not better rivers in my country? He was offended by the way that the prophet said he was going to get the solution to his problem. He had his own prescription. He was thinking that the prophet would come out, cry out loud, lay hands on him, and then he will be cleansed. But the prophet had another way, which I believe was an instruction from the Lord. Does that not sound like what many of us do? When we pray, there's something that we think that's the way that God should answer our prayers. For many people, we are looking for a physical manifestation. We're looking for something miraculous, something spectacular to happen so that we will know that our prayers are answered, or that's the way we think God should answer our prayers. But here is it, newsflash, that throughout the Bible, I have discovered that many times the way God answers the prayers of His people are by instructions or by speaking to them. Many times in the Bible, that's how God answers prayers. And it would look like what many people want to experience would not happen. And so they wait for a long time, not recognizing that there is actually an answer to their prayer. So I'll give an example. The prophet Elijah, one time when he was chased out by Jezebel, he went to the mountains to pray. And the Bible tells us that there was a strong wind that came around. And that sound or looked very spectacular. It looked spectacular that there's a boisterous wind going around. And then you might think that that's a sign from the Lord. That's God speaking. But the Bible said God was not in it. And then there was a strong sound. And then there was fire. But all of it, God was not in it. And the Bible tells us that then, after all these spectacular things, there was a still small voice. And when he heard the still small voice, that's where he recognized that God was actually speaking to him. So the spectacular was not the answer. It was the supernatural act of God speaking. Many times, if you look out the spectacular, you will miss the supernatural. If you look out for the spectacular all the time, you miss the supernatural. There are cases in the Bible where God answered prayer through physical manifestations. For example, in the book of Acts chapter number 12, the disciples were praying for the release of the apostle Peter when he was captured by Herod. And whilst they were praying, an angel went to the jail cell and then brought him out, and they saw Peter come right before their eyes. That was a supernatural intervention. That was very spectacular. That was a physical manifestation that pointed to the answer of their prayer. So there are cases where God will answer prayers by physical manifestations. Something spectacular would happen, so you cannot miss that this is actually God's answer to my prayer. But the countless times, God answered prayers by speaking to people. Peter toiled all night without catching anything. And when he had an encounter with Jesus, Jesus gave him an instruction. And Peter said, we have toiled all night, we've caught nothing but at your word. So the instructions that God gives to people, when they act on it, they become the miracle or the answers to the prayers that they were looking for. And so here is what I want you to take out of this. I want you to be open like a child to how God is going to answer the things you speak to him about. You do not have to be stereotypic and say that, well, concerning this particular prayer point, this is how I think God should answer it. God has 1,001 ways to answer prayers, and so you should be open to it. And I believe that when you are open to it, open to hear what God is going to say, open to hear how he's going to use other people to influence the answer, open to hear how something supernatural or spectacular would happen to point to the answers to your prayers, you are going to maximize answers to your prayers. The Lord bless you, and we'll catch up on the next episode.